Namaskar. Welcome to Reality Check 6, the last and final episode of our End Human Trafficking series. You've been with us for the last 6 weeks, watching this very compelling, powerful conversation with different stakeholders. On Reality Check 1, we had our partners and colleagues from the civil society organizations participating. And they spoke about the challenges in the civil society, about competition for resources, donor driven agenda, poor skills, and so many other things. On Reality Check 2, we had two very esteemed judges, Justice Madan B. Lokur and a sitting judge, Judge Swati Chauhan. They spoke about why are the courts not so victim friendly, and how to make it more victim friendly. They also spoke about the challenges under which judicial officers are functioning. In Reality Check 3, we had three super cops. What a conversation that was about how to make the policing more victim centric, how to make the investigation more victim centric. In Reality Check 4, we had fantastic public prosecutors and private lawyers in conversation with Salil and me about how difficult it is for victim to represent their own rights in the court. And last week, which was another, really amazing episode with political representatives. Do our politicians really have the political will to end human trafficking? And it was, for us, both painful and very heartening to know that most political parties do not think that it is a priority. But the heartening fact was we had fantastic political representatives who believed, yes, this has to change, and they're willing to make the change. Today, we have come a full circle. For all those of you who have been following us for the last 6 weeks, you know that all this started on July 30th, on the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, when we had a, a fantastic virtual conference with survivors. And it is there that the idea germinated that why don't we have a in-depth conversation with stakeholders? Today, as I say, we've come a full circle on this final episode of Reality Check. You have a very unique happening. As an activist who has been doing this work for the last many years and knowing what the global scenario is, I have not heard of such an initiative anywhere in the world or elsewhere in India. For the first time, survivor advocates will be in conversation with duty bearers. What a unique time. As you all know, that we are allowing the survivor advocates to speak in a language which is comfortable for them. So all the questions will be asked in English, but the answers definitely will be in English. The girls will be asking their questions in Hindi, and the answers will be given in English. So welcome to each one of you all there on Zoom, on Facebook to this reality check. A special hearty welcome to our esteemed panelist, Judge Swati Chauhan, who is now the principal judge of Nanded Family Court. Judge Swati Chauhan is a friend of the cause. I can't imagine a better friend for all the victims and survivors in the country other than Judge Swati Chauhan. She's a celebrated judge. Countries after countries have acknowledged her contribution to the anti-trafficking sector. She is a trafficking in persons hero by the United States government. Welcome, ma'am. Welcome to Reality Check 6. I also welcome our second panelist, Shri Mahesh Bhagwatji, a super cop, a dynamic officer, an officer who is a personification of humanity. His empathy, his compassion is something that all of us have seen it firsthand. Shri Mahesh Bhagwatji is also a trafficking in persons hero. He is recognized not just by the United States government, but from world over, meaning I can't tell you the number of awards he has got for the yeoman and extraordinary work that he does. Welcome, Maheshji, to this reality check. Our third panelist is a public prosecutor, Sri Premnathji. Sri Premnathji is from Kerala. He has been a public prosecutor and an assistant public prosecutor doing some extraordinary work with victims. In fact, he set up an organization called as Vishwas only for providing services to victims. Welcome, Premnathji. And last on our guest panel is Sri Ravikant. Sri Ravikant is a friend, colleague, co-collaborator, co-crusader. I can't tell you what all. He comes from a unique setting. He has founded an organization called Shakti Vahini. And what really touches me is that not only he, but his entire family is committed to the cause of human trafficking. They are popularly known as Kant Brothers internationally. And the Kant Brothers have done so much for the anti-trafficking sector. Ravikantji, welcome to Reality Check. I also welcome our guest survivor advocates who are our guest moderators for this reality check. And they're very, very important people, mind you, because these are extraordinary leaders of tomorrow who are now voicing the concern of hundreds and thousands of victims across the country. We have as a panel guest moderator, Ella Sangma. Ella Sangma is from the Northeast. She's from Meghalaya. She's a survivor leader. She has done human amount of work in sensitizing the community about trafficking. She is currently office assistant with Impulse NGO Network, which is the organization that is supported through her rescue and rehabilitation. Welcome, Ella, to this reality check. I also welcome our guest moderator, survivor advocate, Namrata Borikar. Namrata Borikar from Rescue Foundation is a trainer. She is a trainer in jewelry making. She is a trainer in beautician courses. And one of the most important things that she's doing, she's part of a project called as Ekatra Project, where they're training trainers. So we are actually looking forward to Namrata Borikar and her team to actually train trainers and give it to organizations like ours across the country. Welcome, Namrata Borikar, for this reality check. And our guest moderator, the final guest moderator is Reshma Mohammed. Reshma Mohammed is the chairperson of Survivors Network in the Telugu states of Andhra and Telangana. She leads more than 300 survivors for their rights in this part of the country. And she heads in a department called as Victim-Centered Advocacy. She has been instrumental in rescuing hundreds and thousands of girls. Herself, she is an icon and hero for all of us. So welcome, Reshma. Welcome to all the panelists. And I also want to welcome all the judicial officers, public prosecutors, civil society partners, concerned citizens, friends on Zoom and on Facebook watching this show. Welcome. As usual, I can't do this reality check without my co-moderator. My co-moderator, Salil Kadir, the Cultural Affairs Advisor in the US Consulate of Hyderabad. Salil Kadir will be the person who will be telling you now on what is the format that we will be following for this last finale episode of End Human Trafficking series, Reality Check 6. Salil, over to you.
Thank you, Sunita, and thank you for the elaborate welcome. This is a great panel. We couldn't have asked for a better finale, and I'm very sure that we have more than 400 people here on Zoom, and a few thousand who are already watching on Facebook Live too through our shared network. So I welcome all of you again, and to ensure that we have a good conversation, I am going to announce some house rules, and I'm going to request all of you to please follow that. The format has already been explained by Sunita, so I'm not going to go back to it. But my request to all our panelists here is, sir, ma'am, and sirs, if you could limit your responses to about 2 to 3 minutes, that would be great, because that would allow us to take questions from our guests, our survivor advocates, of course, but there are survivor advocates on the Zoom chat too, and of course there will be a lot of questions that will come in from Facebook. So we want to ensure that all these questions are relayed back to you for responses. As Sunita has already said, please feel comfortable to respond in English or Hindi. We are ready to translate the crux of your responses for the benefit of our larger audience here who may not understand English, because we have a large group of survivor advocates who have joined us today. We will not be taking any live questions, barring probably one or two that we will just be finalizing in a bit. But largely, we will not be taking live questions. So if you have questions, friends, please post it in the chat window below, or you could post them on the Facebook chat comment section. And we have our colleagues, Ms. Swasti Rana and Mr. Nitin, who will be ensuring that these questions are picked up and shared with us. With that, I will just say that, do not feel disappointed if your question isn't raised here. We are trying to prioritize our survivor advocate questions first. So that will be the order. And one final request: please wait for the conversation to flow a little before you start asking your questions, because my belief is, from the past 5 episodes that we have done, that in all probability, the questions that you have in your mind, in one way or the other, would have been answered by our panelists as we reach the end of the conversation. But definitely do post your questions and we'll take these questions up from you. Over to you, Sunita.
Thank you, Salil. I also want to share that our other panelist, Mr. Rozidar Garu, is also joined. And thank you so much, Rozidar Garu, for joining, because I know you're unwell. I know you've had a small accident and you are under tremendous pain. And in spite of that, and you just come back from the hospital, in spite of that, you're taking the time out. Rozidar Garu, ladies and gentlemen, I must tell you, is the former Deputy Director of Prosecution from Andhra Pradesh. I want to welcome him, and I'm so grateful to you, sir, for joining, because the kind of commitment you show in spite of the fact that you're unwell and actually in a lot of pain right now. In spite of that, you have joined us. Extremely grateful, sir. So let's begin this conversation. I think I've given 2 long speeches as introduction itself, and Salil has very, slightly nudged me on that and saying, okay, now we need to begin our conversation. So we will now start with our survivor advocate, Ella Sangma. Ella Sangma will be asking our first question to our panelist, police officer Shri Mahesh Bhagwat ji. Ella, आप प्लीज अपना सवाल महेश सर के लिए, जो पुलिस ऑफिसर हैं, प्लीज पूछें. Salil, you have muted Ella. Unmuted.
अभी सुन रहे हैं मैम?
बिल्कुल सुन रहे हैं. एला, प्लीज शुरू कीजिए.
सर, आपको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद ये मीटिंग ज्वाइन करने के लिए. आपसे मैं एक सवाल पूछना चाहती हूँ. सर, मैं एक बात पूछना चाहती हूँ कि जब रेस्क्यू करते हैं लड़कियों को, जब सर्वाइवर का लड़कियों को रेस्क्यू करने के बाद फिर ट्रैफिकर लोग को भी आप लोग अरेस्ट करते हैं. उसके बाद लेके आने के बाद फिर हम लोगों को तो फिर होम में भेज देते हैं, लड़कियों को सबको होम में भेज देते हैं. उसके बाद फिर हम लोग जाने के बाद फिर ट्रैफिकर लोग को फिर इतना जल्दी क्यों छोड़ दिया जाता है?
महेश
जी, नमस्ते इला जी.
नमस्ते सर.
नमस्ते. मैंने इससे पहले भी आपको सुना है. अच्छा बात करते हैं आप, बहुत अच्छा लगता है. बहुत कन्विक्शन से आप बात करते हैं. और आपका सवाल जो है, एक्चुअली आधा सवाल मेरे से जुड़ा हुआ है, आधा सवाल हमारे साथ में हमारे प्रोसिक्यूटर फ्रेंड है और हमारे जज मैडम है, उनके साथ भी जुड़ा हुआ है. देखिए, जब हम ट्रैफिकिंग का रेस्क्यू जो करते हैं, 5R में हम सबसे ज्यादा आर, फर्स्ट आर जो है हमारा रेस्क्यू, रेड और रेस्क्यू, उसमें हमारा इंपॉर्टेंट रोल है पुलिस का। हम लोग रेस्क्यू करते हैं। हम लोग आजकल इंडिया में सबसे अच्छी बात है अभी कि विक्टिम्स को विक्टिम्स माना जा रहा है और 100% अभी विक्टिम्स को रेस्क्यू कर रहे हैं। इससे पहले हम लोग, जब हमें ज्यादा जानकारी नहीं थी कानून के बारे में, when we were not aware about the laws, we used to arrest even the victims under section 8 of Immoral Traffic Act for soliciting on the public place. Now we are not arresting the victims, we are rescuing victims, we are producing them as witnesses in our case, we are recording their 164, that change has come in the police. Now, under which section of law we are arresting the accused? Mostly now we are arresting the traffickers under the section 370 clause A of human trafficking, which has been inserted in Indian Penal Code after 2013 Criminal Amendment Act. Along with that, section 3 for running the brothel, section 4 for living on earning of brothel, section 5 for inducing in the prostitution, and section 7 at the prostitution at public place. Under this section, we are arresting the accused. And if the victims are minor or they are inducted into the prostitution when they were minor, we are using the sections of the rape also and the POCSO also. So under this section now we are arresting the traffickers and producing them in the court of law. Now in the court of law, most of the times advocates will come, they will take many pleas, they will defend them that this is the first time they are doing it and all. We also on our behalf through the prosecution, we put our case, we also contest that no, bail should not be given. This person will tamper the evidence, he will threaten the victims and all. But ultimately, it is a discretion of the court to grant the bail. It's not in our hand. So I can't answer at my level why they are getting released at the earliest from the court. We are doing our job most of the time in a possible way, but getting them released earlier is not in our hand. It is a discretion of the court. Thank you, Ella.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Mahesh ji, for the benefit. मैं आप कुछ लोग जो शायद इसका हिंदी में एक अनुवाद चाह रहे हैं, बहुत छोटा सा मैं बता देता हूं कि महेश जी ने ये कहा कि इससे अब तक जो है कुछ पहले तक पुलिस विक्टिम और जब रेड करती थी विक्टिम में एक अंतर नहीं करती थी, तो विक्टिम को भी अरेस्ट कर लिया जाता था। लेकिन अब पुलिस में अब काफी जागरूकता आ गई है और अब जो है वो अलग सेक्शन में उनको बुक करते हैं, ट्रैफिकर्स को अंडर 370 बुक करते हैं और अपनी तरफ से केस बनाते हैं। और महेश जी ये कह रहे हैं कि भाई पुलिस का इसमें आधा हिस्सा है और बाकी आधा हिस्सा हमारे कुछ और साथी हैं, उनकी तरफ भी वो सवाल जाएगा, जो हमारे पब्लिक प्रोसिक्यूटर्स हैं उनकी तरफ भी जाता है। लेकिन वो अपनी तरफ से पूरी कोशिश करते हैं और अब जो कह रहे हैं पुलिस में ज्यादा जागरूकता है और धारा 370 के तहत जो है अब ट्रैफिकर्स को अरेस्ट करते हैं। थैंक यू महेश जी। मैं अपना अगला सवाल जो है नम्रता, मैं आपसे रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि आप जो है हमारे पास आज, जैसे मैंने सुनीता ने पहले भी इंट्रोड्यूस कराया था, हमारे पास जज स्वाति चौहान मैडम हैं और इस कॉज से काफी समय से जुड़ी हुई हैं। तो मेरी आपसे रिक्वेस्ट है नम्रता कि मैडम स्वाति चौहान से जो आप अपना अगला सवाल पूछिए।
नमस्ते मैम, मेरा सवाल आपसे ये है कि जब किसी विक्टिम को रेस्क्यू किया जाता है तो उन्हें 21 डेज में छोड़ दिया जाता है। तो 21 डेज से जो आउट ऑफ कंट्री की होती है, जैसे बांग्लादेश की, वो 21 डेज उनके लिए काफी नहीं होता है कि वो अपना रियल एड्रेस बताए। और अगर उनको सही ट्रैक पे लाना है तो उनके लिए काउंसलिंग की, ट्रेनिंग की और एजुकेशन देना बहुत जरूरी होता है। तो क्या 21 डेज काफी है कि उन्हें सही ट्रैक पे लाने के लिए?
हाँ नम्रता, कैसी हो तुम?
आई एम गुड मैम, थैंक यू।
ओके, अच्छा, जब तुम बता रही हो, आई थिंक आई शुड आंसर इन इंग्लिश, राइट?
Yes, ma'am, please answer in English.
Okay. There is a section in ITPA, section 17, which prescribes the procedure and the time frame in which certain orders are required to be passed. So whenever any victim is rescued and brought before the court, this timeline starts. So it is expected that the magistrate who is dealing with the case or dealing with this remand will pass necessary orders at appropriate time. So the first benchmark is of 21 days. The first order which the magistrate will pass after the victim is rescued is to send the victim for medical examination. The purpose of medical examination is to see that verify the age of the victim, whether she is major or minor. And the second most important aspect of medical examination is to check whether she is suffering from any sexually transmitted disease. So this, after the first rescue, this is the first thing which the court will order. The second thing is the court will appoint a probation officer to look into this matter and inquire with the victim. There is the third thing which is essential here is the magistrate who is dealing with the case will contact the inquiry committee which is formed, which consists of 5 people, and this case will be discussed with this inquiry committee to decide what all should be required in this case for rehabilitating the victim. Needless to say that the court initially will interact with the victim herself also in detail. So for all this process, 21 days are required. It is expected that all these orders are done in 21 days. I agree with you fully, Namrata, that 21 days are not sufficient for rehabilitation of the victim, or for that matter, if there is a repatriation required to be done of the victim out of India, certainly 21 days is not sufficient. But 21 days time is for doing all this. Within 21 days, the judge should think and conclude that yes, this victim requires further protection. So she needs to be sent to shelter home, or if she is from another neighboring country, she is required to be repatriated. So these all decisions are required to be made in 21 days. It's not that rehabilitation will be completed in 21 days, but for doing all this, appointing inquiry committee or appointing probation officer, doing the medical test, and after 2 or 3 meetings with the victim in this 21 days, if the judge feels that now this girl is to be sent for protection, for further protection, within 21 days, the order is required to be passed that whether this girl will go for protection or whether she will be released. If the judge or the magistrate feels that this is a case where the parents are sufficiently resourced to take care of the victim and they are not the reason for her getting trafficked, she can be handed over in the custody of her parents. So 21 days is the preliminary inquiry, but definitely for rehabilitation, many days or many weeks or sometimes years are required to complete the process. For repatriation also, order is required to be passed that within 21 days that this girl is required to be repatriated. But the process of repatriation,
Ma'am, आप बोलिए. Yeah, I'll take care of that. Please continue.
A little.
There's some disturbance, I think.
Yes, ma'am. Please continue, ma'am.
Yeah. So within 21 days, the judge has to conclude that yes, this girl is required to be repatriated. So that process will take long. Take much time, but 21 days is to do all these preliminary things, you know, to open the gates of either rehabilitation or repatriation or reintegration with family, home inquiry, Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah. So this 21 days is basically as of now, I think sufficient. If you understand the provisions very properly, 21 days are sufficient to go ahead with this.
Thank you, Swati ma'am. Thank you so much. Namrata had asked whether 21 days is enough for rehabilitation. Ma'am has answered in English. So for all those survivors who are in this panel and on the Facebook who are watching, बस आपको ये बता दें, मैडम ने इसका जवाब ये दिया है कि 21 दिन में पूरे इंक्वायरीज होने हैं, 21 दिन रिहैबिलिटेशन के लिए नहीं है, 21 दिन में एक जज को आगे पीछे सब कुछ देखना पड़ता है, वेरिफिकेशन करना पड़ता है, और 21 दिन के बाद फाइनल ऑर्डर्स पास करने पड़ते हैं कि आप कितना दिन रखना चाहते हो रिहैबिलिटेशन के लिए। तो 21 दिन मिनिमम है इंक्वायरी सब खत्म करने के लिए। आगे बढ़ते हैं, लेट्स गो टू द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन। मैं रेशमा जी से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगी कि आप अपना नेक्स्ट सवाल वकील साहब यानी रोजेदार साहब से आप प्लीज पूछें। रेशमा, ओवर टू यू।
नमस्ते सर, मैं आपसे ये क्वेश्चन पूछना चाहती हूँ कि सर, जो लोग बहुत गलत काम करते हैं उनके लिए लड़ने के लिए बहुत सारे वकील सामने आते हैं सर। जब उस टाइम पे केस लड़ते रहते, उस टाइम पे बहुत जोर जोर से उनका केस लड़ते हैं, पर जो लड़कियां हैं जिन्होंने वास्तव में कोई गलत नहीं किया था, उनके केस लड़ने कोई भी नहीं आते हैं, पर अगर से आए तो भी बहुत कम आवाज में बात करते हैं। तो मैं आपसे पूछना चाहती हूँ सर, क्यों हमें इंसाफ दिलाने के लिए कोई भी वकील, कोई भी पीपी सामने नहीं आते हैं?
yes. बहुत अच्छा क्वेश्चन पूछे आप, मैं हिंदी में जवाब दे सकता हूँ।
सर आप इंग्लिश में दे दीजिए, हम लोग बाद में इसको ट्रांसलेट
करेंगे। True, I can understand the problem, means the question raised by the panel is very correct. That many of the defense lawyers harshly behave and harshly attack the victims, whereas some of the prosecutors are not so active. See what she feels. It's not so, because suppose if private advocate comes forward to take up the case of the victim, yeah, it is very difficult for him actually, because it is the state interest has been involved. The state has to take up took the responsibility of protecting the victim so effectively. So as a representative of the state, the public prosecutor will represent the state to protect the case of the interest of the victim from all the corners in respect of medical examination, means benefits which may be entitled by her, or the rehabilitation, repatriation, whatever it may be. So some of the prosecutors are not so trained, and even some of the judicial officers are not so trained and proactive. The problem arises that if they are able to understand the law and the victim and the role of the means a prosecutor, then there will be no problem. Prosecutor will be a strong person to stand on behalf of the victim. Private advocates are not necessary, provided the public prosecutor must be equipped. He should be committed and he should be trained in such a manner to understand the problems of the victim and how to treat the victim and how to introduce the victim, how to convince the court in all respect. So the main problem in the system is this, the state public prosecutors, all the public prosecutors are not trained on that line. They do not know, many of them. The trained public prosecutors are doing very good work, no doubt at all. Untrained prosecutors always they develop confusion as to their own roles in protecting the victim. So it is necessary to equip the public prosecutors so effective. That is the problem. Otherwise, if the private advocate is entered, sometimes he may not be able to maintain liaison with the other stakeholders, the NGOs. So a public prosecutor can take the help of the NGO in counsel, means to prepare the victim effectively and to present the case before the court and to convince the judge and all these things. So always you feel that your public prosecutors are there with the victims, provided if they are equipped.
Thank you, Rozdar Sahab. And again, Reshma raised a very important point. Why is it that public prosecutors who are there to defend जो हमारे सर्वाइवर्स हैं उनको डिफेंड करने के लिए पब्लिक प्रोसिक्यूटर्स आए हैं, वो अपना काम क्यों नहीं कर पाते, उसी तरह जिस तरह से डिफेंस लॉयर्स करते हैं। एक पॉइंट रोजदार साहब ने कहा जो सबसे जरूरी है वहां, वो है ट्रेनिंग की कमी। ट्रेनिंग की कमी, अवेयरनेस की कमी, ये सबसे जरूरी चीज रोजदार साहब ने बताई है, और इसको इस पे काम करना चाहिए, इस पे काम किया जाना चाहिए। तो अगला सवाल मैं आपको एला मैं आपको इनवाइट कर रहा हूँ। आपका सवाल जो है हमारे साथ यहाँ पे रविकांत साहब हैं जो एक बहुत बड़ा एनजीओ चलाते हैं। एला, मैं आपसे रिक्वेस्ट कर रहा हूँ कि आप रविकांत जी से अपना सवाल पूछिए।
जी सर। सर नमस्ते।
नमस्ते। नमस्ते
सर, मैं आपसे एक सवाल पूछना चाहती हूँ। मैं आपको जानती हूँ, आप कलकत्ता से हो। सर, मैं एक ऐसा सवाल पूछना चाहती हूँ और मैं जानना चाहती हूँ आपसे। तो सर, मैं ये जानना चाहती हूँ कि जो सर्वाइवर आते हैं एनजीओ में या कोई भी होम में या कोई भी संस्था में, जब आते हैं तो उनके लिए जो जरूरतें होती है, जरूरत मतलब क्या है, उनके लिए आधार कार्ड जरूरी होते हैं, एपी का आईडी कार्ड जरूरी होते हैं और पैन कार्ड की जरूरत होते हैं। क्या उनको क्यों ये सब नहीं मिलते? और सर्वाइवर चाहते हैं कि ये सब क्यों नहीं होते हैं, हर संस्था में ऐसा क्यों नहीं होते हैं? तो हम जानना चाहते हैं ये कि ऐसा क्या हो सकता है, उनकी जरूरतें पूरा हो सकते हैं सर?
बहुत अच्छा प्रश्न है इला, और a very good question, Ila. When victims of and survivors of human trafficking, especially sex trafficking, when they go into the shelter homes and fortunately for them, if orders have been passed for a longer stay, and if the NGO is proactive and if the prosecutor and the police are proactive, then longer stay orders are done. But उसके बाद क्या होता है कि if you want to, and a very valid question, क्योंकि when rehabilitation will start only when you have an identity. This was very actively discussed in Buddhadev Karmaskar case in Supreme Court. And there the court said that every survivor of human trafficking should be given, every Indian survivor of human trafficking should be given the identity cards, because that is the first step towards rehabilitation. और rehabilitation की जब बात होती है तो उसमें we have to understand that it is not only about candle making or about incense sticks or small which NGOs, mostly because there are lack of resources they are provided. It means skill development. It means access to banking system. It means support from the banks. It means a lot of things. So therefore the identity is very important, and the identity is also important for the court case. So if the survivor belongs to a certain place and if she's in a shelter home, there are orders that the shelter homes can also get these identity cards done. And I would really request most shelter homes to ensure that if the victim or survivor has come and she has no other identity, then steps should be initiated, because it's a very crucial step. Otherwise, you will be deprived of most of the government schemes. And when the new comprehensive law will be passed and rehabilitation is going to become more mandatory and the government has to do it, the budgetary provisions will be provided, then also this identity cards is very, very important. It's a very good question, and most of the shelter homes should take care of it.
Thank you, Ravi ji. Ella asked a question whether, why aren't NGOs, facilitating for getting the ID proofs or the identity proofs for victims? और रवि सर ने जो जवाब दिया बहुत ही अच्छे से कहा कि हर एनजीओ का दायित्व है। आपने एला जी सही कहा, आइडेंटिटी कार्ड होने चाहिए। हर एनजीओ का दायित्व है कि वो बिल्कुल 100% हर विक्टिम को उसका आइडेंटिटी प्रूफ लगाएं। आगे चलते हैं. लेट मी नाउ कम ऑन टू नम्रता. नम्रता, आप अपना अगला सवाल पूछें महेश सर से, जो पुलिस ऑफिसर हैं.
जी नमस्ते सर. मेरा सवाल आपसे ये है कि मैंने सुना है कि 18 साल में 18 साल के ऊपर की जो लड़कियां हैं उन्हें रेस्क्यू नहीं किया जा सकता, और अगर इनकेस किसी एनजीओ पुलिस से हेल्प लेने आते हैं तो पुलिस उन्हें ये करके मना कर देते हैं कि नहीं, हम सिर्फ माइनर लड़कियों को ही रेस्क्यू करेंगे, मेजर को नहीं. क्या मेजर लड़कियों के साथ जबरदस्ती नहीं होता या उन्हें जरूरत नहीं होती?
हाँ नम्रता, सवाल बिल्कुल सही है आपका. ऐसा हर एक केस में तो नहीं होगा कि हर एक पुलिस ऑफिसर, आजकल पुलिस ऑफिसर का काफी अच्छा ट्रेनिंग हो रहा है, सेंसिटाइजेशन हो रहा है, उनको काफी जानकारी दी जा रही है कानून के बारे में. जो लड़कियां 18 साल के ऊपर हो, लेकिन जो 18 साल के कम उम्र में जो ट्रैफिक हो गई हो, या लड़कियां भी कितना भी उम्र हो 18 साल के ऊपर, वो खुद चाहती है कि इसमें से वो बाहर आ जाए, और वो खुद अगर रिक्वेस्ट कर रही है एनजीओ के जरिए, अगर पुलिस के पास में वो पहुंचना चाह रही है, तो ये फर्ज बनता है पुलिस वालों का भी. इट इज द बाउंड एंड ड्यूटी ऑफ द पुलिस टू रेस्क्यू द विक्टिम, इवन इफ द विक्टिम इज मेजर. It's not that victim should be minor. It's wrong on the part of police. If any police station house officer especially, is refusing or rejecting the proposal of rescuing of the victim, if the victim is major. It is correct that the laws for the minor victims are more stringent. There is more punishment for that. But at the same time, when the adult victims are willing that they should get rescued, it is a bounden duty of the police officer to rescue them. I want to cite one example. 2 years back in 2018, month of July, we conducted a big rescue at a place called Yadgiri Gupta in Bhongir Yadadri district in Telangana. We rescued around 36 girls. In that, 33 were minors in that. So one of the girl we rescued from a neighboring police station by name Abdullahpur Met, and this girl was trafficked 10 years back. And when we have rescued, she has literally got hold of the feet of our inspector. She said that for last 10 years, I was waiting for this opportunity that one day police will come and rescue me. It's not that victims are, once they are in the brothel, they get normalized to the exploitation, that Stockholm syndrome develop and other things. It's not like that. We have seen the victims, even after 10-15 years in the prostitution, still they want to get rid of these traffickers, the brothel keepers, the organizers, the recruiters. So it all depends on the will of the victim. The will of the victim, the best interest of the victim is very, very important in the trafficking cases. It's not that whether she is adult or she is a minor. It is a bounden duty of police to rescue her when victim want to get rid of that from the clutches of that trafficker.
थैंक यू महेश जी. नम्रता, उन्होंने जवाब दिया कि हर पुलिस वाले का फर्ज है, उम्र जो भी हो, कोई अगर विक्टिम है वहां पे रेस्क्यू करना चाह रहे हैं तो पुलिस वाले का फर्ज है कि उनको रेस्क्यू किया जाए. हाँ, वो मानते हैं कि जो माइनर्स के लिए जो लॉज हैं वो ज्यादा मजबूत है, लेकिन ऐसा कोई पुलिस वाला नहीं कह सकता कि अगर कोई खुद से अडल्ट वहां से निकलना चाह रहे हैं तो उनको रोकेगा या उनको रेस्क्यू नहीं किया जाएगा. उन्होंने एक एग्जांपल भी दिया कि किस तरह से उन्हीं के एक क्षेत्र में उनके पुलिस कमिश्नरेट में इन्होंने एक रेस्क्यू जो किया था. थैंक यू महेश जी. एंड फॉर अ नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन, रेशमा, मैं आपके पास आ रहा हूँ. आपका सवाल, अगला सवाल स्वाति जी, जज स्वाति चौहान के लिए है. रेशमा, सवाल पूछिए अपना.
नमस्ते मैम. मैं आपसे ये पूछना चाहती हूँ कि मैम, जब हम लड़कियां कोर्ट पे जाते हैं तो हमें लगता है कि मैम हम बहुत सारा बड़ा गलत काम करके यहाँ पे आए हैं, तो ऐसा समझाने वाले कोई नहीं रहता कि मैम आपके साथ गलत नहीं हुआ, आपके साथ जो गलत कराया बोल के हिम्मत देने वाले कोई नहीं रहते मैम. तो हमारे साथ तो बहुत गलत हुआ ना मैम. क्यों हमें ऐसा लगना चाहिए कि हमारा गलत जो किया है हम उनके बारे में यहाँ बोलने से हमें यहाँ पे इंसाफी मिल सकता है? बोलते हैं, सो एक माहौल कोर्ट में क्यों क्रिएट नहीं कर पाते हो? और दूसरा ये है मैम, जब हम कोर्ट में आते हैं तो 1 साल के लिए 2 साल के लिए होम्स पे भिजा देते हैं, तो बहुत सारे लड़कियां 15 दिन में, 1 महीने में, 2 महीने में रिलीज होके चले जाते हैं हमारे सामने, फिर से दोबारा हमारे सामने ही होम में रीट्रैफिकिंग होके आते हैं। तो क्यों मैम, उन पे क्यों कोर्ट में एक्शन नहीं लिया जाता है?
अच्छा रेशमा, तुमने जो बताया ना वो बहुत सही है कि हमारे पास इंडिया में कहीं भी जाओ, कोई भी स्टेट में जाओ, कोई भी डिस्ट्रिक्ट में जाओ, जो कोर्ट का माहौल है वो बहुत ही ज्यादा एप्रहेंशन क्रिएट करता है किसी के भी लिए। तुम विक्टिम बन के जाओ, तुम एक्यूज बन के जाओ, तुम कभी सिर्फ विटनेस बन के भी जाते हो ना, तो यहाँ का जो माहौल है वो बहुत ज्यादा डरावना जैसा महसूस होता है। तो और दूसरी एक बात है कि जैसे अक्यूज के साथ जो रिमांड में डील होता है, बात होती है, और उनके साथ जो ट्रीटमेंट दिया जाता है, मुझे ऐसा लगता है स्पेशल कोर्ट में जहाँ पे आईटीपीए के केसेस से डील करते हैं, तो विक्टिम्स को चैम्बर इंक्वायरी लेते हैं ताकि उनको किसी के सामने उनकी आइडेंटिटी रिवील ना हो, उनकी जो पहचान है वो किसी को पता ना चले। सॉरी, आई एम स्विचिंग टू, आपको फिर हिंदी में समझाएंगे, मैं इंग्लिश में बोलती हूँ। So basically, the ambience of the court itself is of apprehension. Anybody, even accused, feels apprehensive when they go to court. Victims are already under apprehension, so it adds to their apprehension. Even sometimes the witness who has to come to the court to depose also fear the ambience of the court. So it is like that. I agree that there should be now change, and especially for the victims and the witnesses, those who come to the court, there should be friendly corners so that they can sit there when till their turn comes to depose before the court. Whenever I used to do inquiry, I used to take care that the victim doesn't feel apprehensive. So I used to call the victims in my chamber and do the inquiry in camera. Second thing, I would ask the victim to sit instead of asking the victim to stand for 15 minutes and answer all the questions. It was easy for the victim, comfortable for the victim. It becomes little less apprehensive, to sit across the table and talk to the judge. So these are the little things which will make the ambience of the court friendly for the victim and a little less apprehensive. So we have to go a long way in creating that ambience, victim friendly or less apprehensive ambience for the victims in Indian court. But I think we are working towards it. In Delhi, there is a vulnerable witness courtroom, so it has all the facilities. I haven't visited that building, but I heard that there are some children friendly corners in that with some toys and fridge full of fruits and water, and they give frequent breaks to the child witness, to get comfortable and face the hearing. So similar arrangement is required where victims of ITPA cases also come to the court. So especially the court which is assigned with the work of ITPA should have such friendly chambers or friendly corners or friendly corridors in the court campus. I think we have to go till that stage. We have to do all these necessary things soon in future.
Swati ji, she had another question on re-trafficking, accountability in re-trafficking cases.
Yeah. Reshma's second question was why some girls are released and then it is found that they are re-trafficked, and then why action is not taken against them. So see, I appeal to all the survivors here and the prosecutors here and all my colleagues, judge colleagues here, that the victim should be given that trust that she can tell the truth before the court. So we don't have that witness protection program yet in Indian courts. So they have list of apprehensions when they come to court. They feel that they are accused. They feel that they will be required to take the bail. They feel that when they are sent to shelter home for protection that they are under punishment. So they should be explained that they are not under punishment or they are not under detention, sort of. They are under protection. So if the victim come to the court and tell the truth, lot of things fall in place. But because of apprehension, sometimes the victim takes time to uncover her story. So it's up to the system to deal with the victims in such a way that they can repose trust in the system. In the first meeting itself, they tell the truth, so that everything is channelized in a proper way, and the incidence of re-traffic can be controlled in that case.
Thank you, Swati ji. Thank you so much. Reshma had asked two questions. One on why is the court environment so hostile to the victim, and two, why can't we start taking accountability of those cases that are getting re-trafficked? और रेशमा मैम ने बहुत अच्छा सा आंसर दिया, काफी सारे मेथड्स बताए किस तरह से कोर्ट का माहौल बदला जा सकता है, और ये भी कहा कि किस तरह से कोर्ट के माहौल बदल जाने से ही शायद री-ट्रैफिकिंग भी कम हो जाए। हम अगले सवाल की तरफ जाएंगे। एला, आपका सवाल है ये, वकील साहब जो प्रेमनाथ जी हैं उनसे आप सवाल पूछेंगे। एला, योर क्वेश्चन टू प्रेमनाथ जी। प्रेमनाथ, आई विल ट्रांसलेट द क्वेश्चन टू यू।
सर, आपको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। आपसे मैं एक सवाल पूछना चाहती हूँ। सर, मेरा ये सवाल है कि जब लड़कियां कोर्ट में जाते हैं, सर्वाइवर का लड़कियां कोर्ट में जाते हैं, सभी को पता है कि वो गंदी जगह से आई हैं, सभी को मालूम है कि वो एक सर्वाइवर है, पर उनसे कचहरी में जब खड़ा किया जाता है, फिर दूसरा वकील इतना गंदे गंदे सवाल क्यों पूछा जाता है उसे, और हमारे वकील इतना चुप से क्यों रहते हैं? क्या उसके लिए कुछ किया नहीं जा सकते हैं?
Premnath, Ella's question is very, very interesting. Defense lawyers in the court cross-question the girls in very, very derogatory manner. Why aren't the public prosecutors defending the victim so that, defense lawyers do not question the victims in such derogatory manner? Premnath, the question is to you. Premnath, your audio is off. Premnath, your audio is off. Yes. Yes, Premnath. Are you able to speak, Premnath?
I think if you take off
Can you hear
the hand,
me?
yeah,
Yes.
now we can.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, thank you very much for that question, because this question should ponder all the judicial officers and public prosecutors who are assembled here, at least here, because nowadays it is happening in every court that defense counsel is using all the tricks to see that the capacity of a victim is go down to that level that she should be in a position to say, what are all wanted by the defense counsel. So he will ask such a lot of questions. So it is a duty of the public prosecutor and the judicial officer to curtail such question and inform the court that such questions should not be allowed at all. Indian Evidence Act provides many sections which says that such questions which questions can be asked, which questions cannot be asked. First of all, the prosecutor should be aware of those provisions in the Indian Evidence Act, and he should be proactive to that extent that he should stand up. He should inform the judge that that question should not be allowed, and if it is being allowed, the judge should record that the opposition of the counsel also. If you start one or two times in a evidence, the other judicial officer will not allow this also. And if the judicial officer is still continuing that practice of allowing the defense counsel to ask such questions, that should be informed to the higher authorities. It is up, as rightly said by Rosar sir, it is up to the prosecutor to fight for the victims in the court, and if they are properly trained, they will not allow defense counsel to ask such questions, and they will ask the judges to curtail those questions by the defense counsel.
Thank you, Premnath साहब, that was very clear. जो एला जो वकील साहब ने जवाब दिया वो ये है कि इंडियन एविडेंस एक्ट के तहत ये जुडिशियल ऑफिसर्स की एक जिम्मेदारी बनती है कि वो इस तरह के सवालात को रोकें और इसके बाद इसको ऑब्जेक्ट करें अगर डिफेंस लॉयर्स जो हैं बार बार इस तरह के सवाल कर रहे हैं जो विक्टिम को फोकस बना के या उन्हें नीचा दिखाने की कोशिश की जाए, तो जुडिशियल ऑफिसर्स की जिम्मेदारी है कि उसको रेज करें, उसको ऑब्जेक्ट करें और जजेस के नजर में लाएं, और अगर ये बार बार करते रहे तो उसे रोका जाए। तो ये प्रेमनाथ साहब का जवाब था। नम्रता, मैं आपकी तरफ आ रहा हूं अगले सवाल से, और इसी जिस तरह के सवाल चल रहे हैं, अब मैं आपसे रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि आप रविकांत जी जो एनजीओ से हैं, शक्ति वाहिनी एनजीओ से जिससे आप वाकिफ होंगे, उनसे आप अपना अगला सवाल करें।
नमस्ते सर।
नमस्कार।
मेरा सवाल आपसे ये है कि कई बार ऐसा होता है जो विक्टिम को सेफली बाहर निकाल दिया जाता है और उनके साथ अगर उनके बच्चे हैं तो उन्हें वो एनजीओ में रखा जा सकता है, लेकिन उनके पीछे उनकी फैमिली होती है, मतलब स्पेशली छोटे भाई बहन होते हैं जिनकी जिम्मेदारी वो विक्टिम के ऊपर होती है, तो उनके लिए कोई फैसिलिटी नहीं है। और कभी इनकेस अगर जो विक्टिम है वो जॉब करने की सोचे भी तो उनको काफी कम सैलरी ऑफर होती है। जैसे कि हम कुछ लड़कियां हैं जो कि 7,000 से जॉब स्टार्ट किए, तो उतना काफी नहीं होता है। जैसे घर के किराया, राशन और पर्सनल बहुत सारे खर्चे होते हैं। अगर हम पढ़ाई वगैरह के लिए सोचे, ये सब चीजें काफी नहीं होते उसको चलाने के लिए। तो उसके लिए आप कुछ किया जा सकता है क्या?
Ekdam. Yes. If whenever a rescue happens in a red light area or in a situation of sex trafficking, it is very important that the police or the NGO or the team, raiding team, should inquire with the survivor or the victim whether she has any children, and that child should also be taken, should be rescued with the victim. What happens is many a times it is seen that traffickers keep the children of victims or survivors in their own custody, just to see that the traffic person complies with all her orders. So sometimes it is used. So it is important that the trafficker should be interrogated, and wherever the child is, that child should be rescued. Either if she's in a school or any place, they should be away from the shadows of the traffickers. And it is very important that this step should be taken up. Many a times, survivors who have children or victims who have children and have been rescued don't open up because of the fear that their children may be hurt. So it is important that the raiding team should take equal interest, not only the survivor or the victim, but also the children. In terms of your question regarding the employment and other opportunities, I'm very sorry that it's a very sad situation. It's still nothing has been done on all of these issues. Skill development and lot of connectivity issues with the government and training of the survivors. Things have not yet happened. There are model initiatives, in some of the states. Prajwala is one, or maybe Sanlap is doing good work. Rescue Foundation. There are some of these initiatives, but across the country, the rehabilitation has been a very gray area, and therefore rehabilitation and skill development and job opportunities are again gray areas. So the comprehensive bill which Sunita ji has fought for in the court or the Supreme Court, and we have been advocating with the government for a long period of time. It's already now 5 years and we are still waiting, and hopefully we are going to get it. The new bill, and we were very pertinent on these issues, that rehabilitation should be made mandatory. It should be a fundamental right. A victim's fundamental right has been violated, and the state is responsible for every step of her reintegration and rehabilitation to the society. And therefore the state ownership should be there. State should handhold, and that will come, hopefully, I think so, when the new comprehensive legislation is going to get passed. That is one of the big demands which we in the NGO sector, as well as across people who work on anti-trafficking issues, have been asking the government. And hopefully then a lot of good things will happen. But presently, I'm afraid that we are not doing anything.
Thank you, Raviji. Namrita had asked 2 questions. One is about the support for siblings of victims and children of victims. And the second question she had asked about is when a survivor opts to work in NGOs, the salaries are given so low. How can a victim manage? And Namrita, अब जवाब आपको ज्यादातर समझ आ ही गया होगा क्योंकि आप बहुत अच्छे इंग्लिश जानते हो, लेकिन फिर भी हमारे बहुत सारे सर्वाइवर्स देख रहे हैं, तो मैं इतना ही बताना चाहूंगी कि रवि सर ने कहा कि हाँ, आप जो बता रहे हो बहुत सही है कि ये दोनों बहुत ग्रे एरिया हैं, लेकिन गवर्नमेंट का दायित्व है चाइल्ड वेलफेयर कमिटीज के थ्रू कि बच्चों को और भाई बहनों को भी वहां से बचाया जाए और उन्हें भी पूरा सपोर्ट दिया जाए। और दूसरी बात उन्होंने कहा कि पुनरावास के हद तक जहाँ पे सैलरीज बहुत कम दिए जाते हैं, आज की तारीख में शायद बहुत ग्रे है, बहुत मतलब सही तरह से चल रहा नहीं है, लेकिन अगर नया कानून आ गया तो शायद इसमें बहुत बदलाव आएगी। तब तक हमें ये थोड़ा सा जो ग्रे एरिया यानी बहुत ही दयनीय स्थिति जो है उसके साथ जीना पड़ेगा, लेकिन नया कानून आने से ये सब बदल जाने वाला है। हम आगे बढ़ते हैं रेशमा की तरफ। रेशमा, आपका सवाल होगा महेश सर से जो पुलिस ऑफिसर है।
नमस्ते सर।
नमस्ते रेशमा, कैसी हो?
अच्छी हूँ सर।
बोलिए।
तो मैं आपसे ये पूछना चाहती हूँ सर, मेरा ही नहीं, मेरे बहुत सारे लड़कियों के से सुनी हूँ मैं सर, जब रेस्क्यू होता है हमारे साथ बहुत गलत होता है सर, क्योंकि जब रेस्क्यू टाइम पे हमारे बिलोंगिंग छूट जाते हैं, हमारे बच्चों छूट जाते हैं, और सर जब उस टाइम पे हम लोग जिस कपड़े पे रहते हैं उसी कपड़े से हमें पुलिस स्टेशन लेके आते हैं सर। जो मीडिया के सामने हम नहीं आना चाहते हैं उस मीडिया के सामने हमें लेके आते हैं। और दूसरा ये है कि सर हमारे से इतना गलत तरीके से, इतना गंदगी से बर्ताव करते सर, एक भूल जाते हैं कि हमें भी इंसान है, मगर ये भूल जाके सर हमारे साथ बहुत गलत करते हैं। तो मेरा कहना ये है कि सर क्यों लड़कियों के जरूरत समझ के पुलिस वाले रेस्क्यू क्यों नहीं कर पाते हो?
अच्छा सवाल है आपका रेशमा। एक्चुअली इट्स first of all, training and capacity building of police is very much required in our country, along with other stakeholders. Sensitization of police should be victim friendly. They should act in the best interest of the victim. Victim rescue protocol, police should follow from the beginning of rescue. What victim want, what is her interest. It is a bounden duty of the police that police should not expose victim to the media. Our laws are made in such a way. Every sex trafficking victim is a victim of rape. And as per our Indian Penal Code, section 228A, there is a punishment of 2 years if any rape victim's identity, her photograph, video, address, name is disclosed. If the victim of sex trafficking is minor, in that situation, the POCSO Act also comes. The section 23 of POCSO Act, identity protection is there. 6 months to 1 year punishment is there. Those who are giving exposure to identity of victim. Similarly, Juvenile Justice Care and Protection Amendment Act, we have section 73, where up to 2 lakhs rupees fine is there if anyone is disclosing the identity of child in need of care and protection. So all these laws are there, but problem is our law enforcement officers, they are not sensitized for these laws. Even other stakeholders also, media people also, even elected representative also, they are forgetting about the victim identity protection. Now coming to the rescue protocol, when the victims are rescued, many times victim, what happened there, actually victims are told in the homes, brothels, that your number one enemy is police. So the language of the victims many times is aggressive. Police people who are nowadays, who are coming for the rescue, they are coming for the rescue, but victims still, they are under the pressure of the trafficker. Sometimes there will be confrontation between the police people and the victim there. We are sensitizing our police people to show utmost patience there. Whenever they are going for the rescue, we are putting our police in the civils, not in uniform there. We are also taking the NGO organization, civil society people along with us. They should talk to the victim. They should identify who are the victims, who are the trafficker. Sometimes we are making mistake. We are rescuing victim, thinking that they are victim. But after that, we are finding that they are traffickers. It happens many times. I will tell you one case. A couple of years back, we rescued one lady from Bangalore along with 19 other girls. She was kept in Vijayawada home. And after 1 month, we come to know that she is the main trafficker. Every day, she was making thousands of calls to many traffickers and gathering them around the home. Then we have arrested again. We have properly made the evidence and produced before the court and sent her for the remand. This kind of thing is happening many times. So the problem is here is the sensitization of the police, that police should follow the rescue protocol. Whenever the victims are rescued, the victims' children, victims' belonging is very, very important. Whenever we are imparting training to the police people, we are teaching them that every victim, especially in the organized red light area, she will be having one trunk. In that trunk, she will keep her money, her jewelry. The money means just 10%, 20% of the amount that what customer gives to the Gharwali Setani. Out of that, she will get 10%, 20%. The minimum amount she is keeping in that trunk. So that trunk you should pakka carry when you are rescuing the children. You should not leave. We have made the protocol in such a way nowadays that it is compulsory for the police people, whenever they are rescuing the victims, they should carry victims' belonging, victims' children with them. Otherwise, sometimes if they are forgetting, we have second time again sent our teams to that homes, and we have brought these things back. We have still cases. I still remember the case of Chandrapur, where from the Prajwala, we have second times we have sent team just for bringing the trunks of all the victims. It is almost 400-500 kilometers from Hyderabad, but just we know how you people are, how the victims are sentimental about their belonging, sentimental about the children. And many times what Ravikant is saying just now, that traffickers blackmail the victims that by detaining their minor children, that your son is with us, your daughter is with us, you have to come back. So it is a bounden duty of the police people, whenever they are rescuing, 360-degree, they should find out who are there any sons, daughters of these victims in the same brothel, and should rescue them when they are rescuing the victim. And for this, again, I am telling, the role of civil society is very, very important if they are assisting the police during the rescue. Because police as such, it will be difficult for the police people because of the lack of experience and all to know all these things. Whereas the civil societies who are specially working for this cause, they know everything. Or if the police people, if they take some victims who are rescued earlier from those homes along with them, those victims will tell all these things. Where the minor girls are confined in that particular brothel, whether they are in the ceiling, they are in the basement, they are below the European commode in the toilet, where they are concealed. That thing will be definitely told by the victims who are accompanying the police team during the rescue. They will tell us about this belonging. They will tell us about the children. So the taking the rescued victims during the rescue operation by the police, I think that is also very, very important. But police friends, all police officers who are attending, my request to them, whenever you are taking any victim during the rescue, please change her name, put her under burqa. Her identity should not get exposed. You have to take care of her personal security also. Then only your operation will be successful. So that's from my side today, Reshma. I think I have answered your question.
Thank you, Mahesh ji. Mahesh ji ने काफी विस्तार से जवाब दिया रेशमा आपके सवाल का. Reshma's question was in a line, why is it that when rescues happen, police are not sensitive to the needs of the victims? Sometimes they don't even have time to pick up their belongings, and sometimes even have to leave their children back. That rescues happen in such a manner. Mr. Mahesh Bhagwat has given a very elaborate response on this. उन्होंने बताया कि और बार बार ये चीज आ रही है, ट्रेनिंग की कमी। रोजदार साहब ने भी ये कहा था, प्रेमनाथ साहब ने भी ये कहा था कि ट्रेनिंग की कमी। महेश जी कह रहे हैं कि पुलिस में सेंसिटाइजेशन की जरूरत है, ट्रेनिंग की जरूरत है। कानून सब है कि अगर वो माइनर है जो विक्टिम रेस्क्यू की गई है तो पॉक्सो अप्लाई करता है, अगर वो एडल्ट है तो रेप के लॉज अप्लाई करते हैं। मीडिया के सामने किसी भी तरह से लेके नहीं जाया जा सकता, उनकी आइडेंटिटी नहीं रिवील की जा सकती। तो ट्रेनिंग की जरूरत है, पुलिस को ही नहीं, मीडिया को भी, इलेक्टेड रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स जो हमारे पॉलिटिशियंस हैं या दूसरे हैं उनको भी जरूरत है। और एक चीज बहुत पते की उन्होंने कहा कि जब रेस्क्यूज होते हैं और उनके साथ में एनजीओ के लोग जाते हैं तो पुलिस को इसमें काफी फायदा होता है, क्योंकि कई चीजें अगर पुलिस रेस्क्यू के दौरान भूल जाए या उनसे छूट जाए, वो जो सिविल सोसाइटी या एनजीओ जो हैं, जो प्रज्वला हो या शक्तिवाणी या कई और जो है, वो उनको बता सकते हैं कि किस तरह से करना है, या उनका जो है उनका जो अटेंशन है उस तरफ लाया जा सकता है। तो ये मैंने संक्षिप्त में महेश जी ने जो कहा उसको मैंने बताया है। और इसी के साथ हम लोग अपने अगले सवाल की तरफ चलते हैं। एला, मैं आपको आमंत्रण दे रहा हूँ हमारे साथ यहाँ पे। जैसे मैंने कहा कि जज स्वाति चौहान है, आप जज मैडम से अपना सवाल कीजिए। एला
सर सर मैं सॉरी
मैडम।
मैम नमस्ते।
नमस्ते।
मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा और आप भी आए हैं ये प्रोग्राम में, मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगेगा आपसे ये सवाल पूछते हुए, और आप जब आंसर देंगे और भी अच्छा लगेंगे। मैम मेरा ये सवाल है कि जब सर्वाइवर लोग को रेस्क्यू करते हैं, करने के बाद उनको तो होम पे भेज देते हैं, फिर उसके बाद उनको वो जो क्या कोड बोलते हैं, जो वो होम का जो एक मतलब जुबिनर का एक कोट होते हैं, तो वहां पे लेके जाया जाता है। फिर वहां से फिर क्या बोलते हैं क्या नहीं बोलते वो तो समझ में आता नहीं है। फिर वहां पे उनको फिर से वापस तारीख देकर फिर वापस भेज दिया जाता है। तो उनका जो सामाने होते हैं, उनका सामान जो होते हैं, जो भी है वहां पे जो कमाता है वो लोग कमाया है, फिर उनको ये सब हक भी नहीं मिलता और उनको ये सब दिलवाता भी नहीं है। और एक बात यही है, क्योंकि सर्वाइवर लोग को जब वहां से जब निकलते हैं उनका तो बदन खराब हो जाते हैं और उनका जिस्म तो ऑलरेडी खराब होते हैं, और ऊपर से उनको बदनामी भी होते हैं और समाज में रहने के लिए भी हक नहीं होता। अगर उनको वो सब जो कमाया हुआ सामान नहीं मिलेगा, उनको दिलवाया नहीं जाएगा, तो क्या किया जा सकते हैं मैम कोर्ट से?
Okay. Ella, whatever you say is very correct. It happens in almost all cases that when police rescue takes place, police rescue the women or the girls, and their belongings are left behind. So Mr. Mahesh Bhagwat has very elaborately explained as to how now the police people are being trained as to what precaution they should take while rescuing the women. So one precaution is to see that their belongings are collected along with the rescue of the girl, and if there are some children or siblings, it is required that in the rescue they are also rescued along with the victim. So that answer, I think, which Mr. Mahesh Bhagwat said, answers your question. But I can
Judge
add.
Swati, can I just interrupt, please? The question that Ella is trying to ask is, why aren't the properties of the traffickers confiscated? Because the traffickers have made all this property because of the girl's body. So why isn't that property confiscated and given back to the girl?
All right. Okay. So मुझे एला आपका क्वेश्चन थोड़ा सा समझ में नहीं आया था सही ढंग से, अभी सुनीता जी ने बताया है तो मैं आंसर कर रही हूँ. See, there's no such provision under ITPA of confiscating the property. So the courts, when dealing with such issues, cannot do which is not prescribed by the law. So what is prescribed by the law is closure of brothel under Section 18. So whenever any girl is rescued, immediately it is required that the brothels are closed down. Closed down, when the brothel is closed down, the cycle of, exploiting the girls and bringing the girls to the brothel, trafficking the girls and bringing, the ongoing cycle of exploitation stops when once the brothel is closed down. So what you say, confiscating the money and the other things of the trafficker, it is still, maybe it will come in the new law, but that provision is still not there in the under ITPA. So what is not prescribed by the law, the court cannot do that. But as far as taking collecting the belongings of the victim, I think police and even the courts are taking care and making sure that whatever belongings of the victim is there, whatever the savings of the victim is there, it is handed over to the victim. So I think very soon the law will develop, and very soon and I endorse what Ella said, that the assets of the traffickers needs to be confiscated and the victim should be compensated from that.
Mahesh sir, you want to answer that? I see.
Actually, this case में हमारी बहुत पुरानी डिमांड है कि जो क्रिमिनल्स है, ट्रैफिकर्स है, उनके एसेट जो है क्यों नहीं सीज होते? ये प्रोसीड्स ऑफ क्राइम जिसे हम कहते हैं, प्रोसीड्स ऑफ क्राइम इन इंडिया is not possible to seize under the ITPA. That's a big issue. Under section 105 CRPC, section C, D, E, where we are seizing the proceeds of crime when the crime is beyond Indian border. In that situation, we are seizing the assets.
Yes.
But here under for the traffickers, we are not using those sections because it's not permitted. But what correctly said now by Swati Chauhan ma'am, that under section 18, we have two provisions. One provision is whether the subdivisional magistrate, deputy collector rank officer can close down brothel for 3 years if the minor victims are there for prostitution.
Yes.
Subdivisional magistrate can close down brothel for 1 year if adult victims are there for the prostitution. There is another section, 18 clause 2, which is very rarely used by the judicial magistrate, which says that whenever there is a conviction under section 3, that is for the running the brothel, and under section 7, that is for the running brothel at public place. In that situation, the judicial officer, as per section 18 clause 2, on their own, without any notice, they can suo moto close down the brothel, but it is hardly happening. I do not know why it is not happening, whether our prosecution brothers and sisters, they are not bringing it in the notice of the judicial magistrate, that is unaware. But very rarely I have seen section 18 clause 2 has been used for closing down the brothel, and this is a very strong section in our country. Even it is more stringent than the NDPS Act, because section 18 clause 3 of Immoral Traffic Prevention Act says there is no appeal in any civil and criminal court of India. If the orders for the closure of brothels are issued by subdivisional magistrate or judicial magistrate, please tell me the one law in India which says there is no appeal provision. This is the only law. Still, we are not using those provisions. I think the time has come to, again, I am repeating, to sensitize the stakeholder. All the law enforcement machinery, include the police, prosecution, and the judiciary. All of them on one platform, we should bring them, we should sensitize them on the existing laws. New law, when it will come and all, we do not know. But whatever existing right now, the best practices are there. We must utilize it. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, I'll share.
Thank you, Mahesh sir.
I'll share one incident where.
Swati,
Yeah,
please tell.
Yeah, there was a case in Mumbai where a car was used in which the girls were taken around in the Jew area, and they were exhibited, and customers were called for the girls. The girls were sitting in the car. So that car was seized by the police, and then I passed an order attaching that car. So there were a lot of applications made by the defense lawyer that there's no provision that you cannot confiscate property. I said, I'm not confiscating property, I'm attaching a brothel. The car was being used as a brothel. So now that is under the closure order. So it is attached by the court, and I'm not releasing that car. So and other thing which I used to make sure in some cases where bail applications were made, I used to ask for bank surety for the accused. So somehow his amount which is in the bank is freezed. So by way of bank surety, that amount I used to keep check. And if there is a car or any such conveyance which is used for brothel, I used to by closure or attachment order, I used to keep that. So we have to find out ways till that proper section comes in the law of confiscating the property.
थैंक यू स्वाति मैम, थैंक यू महेश सर. एला, मैं बहुत क्विकली आपका अब ये बताती हुई, बहुत अच्छे से और बहुत लंबे तरीके से महेश सर ने और स्वाति जी ने समझाया है. ये बताया है कि अभी हमारे कानून में कोई ऐसी प्रावधान नहीं है जहाँ पे हमें जो ब्रोकर हैं, ट्रैफिकर हैं, जो आप एक लड़की के शरीर से कमाया हुआ पैसे को वापस खींचने का तरीका नहीं है. लेकिन एक तरीका है उनके बिजनेस को खत्म करने का कि वो पूरा ब्रॉथल को सील कर सकते हैं. दफा 18 जो ITPA में है उसके द्वारा आप वो कंप्लीट ब्रॉथल को ही क्लोज कर सकते हैं. और स्वाति मैम ने एक अच्छा एग्जांपल दिया कि जहाँ पे गाड़ी में जो चल रहा था वो गाड़ी को ही पकड़ लिया, कहा कि ये ब्रॉथल है, इसको हम सीज कर सकते हैं, तो हम लोग उनके बिजनेस को बंद कर सकते हैं. तो बहुत बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग जवाब आ रहे हैं. आई होप ऑल द ऑफिसर्स हु आर लिसनिंग टू दिस are gaining more and more information. We are talking about sensitization, we are talking about training. Please also realize and be mindful that this entire platform is also doing only that right now. We are, through our answers, sensitizing all our officers on what are the wonderful possibilities done by practitioners like Mahesh ji and Swati ma'am. आगे चलेंगे हम लोग नम्रता की तरफ. नम्रता, आपका सवाल है रोजदार जी से जो वकील साहब हैं. आप अपना अगला सवाल प्लीज वकील साहब से पूछें.
नमस्ते सर, मेरा सवाल आपसे ये है कि जो कॉम्पनसेशन है वो काफी बार मतलब जो पोक्सो की लड़कियां होती है सिर्फ बहुत मतलब उनमें से बहुत कम को मिलता है, वो भी काफी लेट मिलता है. और जो ITPA की लड़कियां होती है उन्हें मिलता ही नहीं है. मैं 4 साल से NGO से जुड़ी हूँ, पर मैंने आज तक ऐसा एक भी लड़की नहीं देखी जो जिन्हें कॉम्पनसेशन मिला, जो ITPA की हो. और सिर्फ 4 या 5 ऐसी लड़कियां होंगी जिन्हें मिला हो. तो आप लोग उसके लिए मतलब कोर्ट में बात क्यों नहीं करते?
रोजदार जी आप हैं यहाँ पर?
अभी मुख में
जी 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 सर, प्लीज टेल मी.
So very good question आपने पूछे थे. So my answer is that there are many schemes that have been introduced. Even National Legal Services Authority भी उसका स्कीम बनाया था और CRPC में भी provisions, number of provisions are there to grant compensation. Even fine amount को भी हम compensation के बदले में ये convert कर सकते हैं judicial officers. But only one thing that actually it is true that POCSO में जितना फंडिंग है वो ट्रैफिकिंग विक्टिम्स के लिए अभी वो यूज करने में थोड़ा अथॉरिटीज थोड़ा डिले कर रहे हैं. ओनली पोक्सो एक्ट का प्रोविजन हो तो वो कॉम्पनसेशन दे रहे हैं. अगर पोक्सो एक्ट का प्रोविजन नहीं तो ट्रैफिकिंग को उसको अप्लाई नहीं कर रहे. सो दैट इज वन डिफिकल्टी दैट, and in some of the states, I don't know in all the states that difficulty is there or not. If only POCSO provisions are there, then they are using that particular fund, and they are not using unless means 370 only 370 or ITPA के इसमें नहीं दे रहे. But still there are schemes are there that has to be pursued by the public prosecutors who are presenting the case, and they have to urge before the court of law and to order either means if possible intermediary compensation or otherwise at finality of the case के time में भी grant कर सकते हैं. और legal services authority, district legal service authority उसके पास भी उसके साथ भी pursue कर सकते हैं. Provisions are there, but delay is occurring due to not taking initiative. And one more thing is that the order, judicial order, if passed regarding the compensation, it will be more effective. So judicial officers, but from the beginning, what I am just telling is every judicial officer shall play proactive role. To suppose if order has been passed, what happened in Charminar case, Mehboob Ka Mehendi case, it was the first case in Andhra Pradesh in 1997. Because of the order of the High Court, 15 lakhs rupees were granted overnight for the benefit of victims. So unless the judicial officer plays a proactive role to direct the state to grant the compensation, and this will not be so effective. Mere representation by the public prosecutor will have no effective means what you can say role. So रोल भी होना चाहिए, पब्लिक प्रोसिक्यूटर का रोल भी होना चाहिए, और जुडिशियल ऑफिसर भी ऑर्डर को करने से, दो भी मिलने से बहुत जल्दी से कॉम्पनसेशन मिल सकता है. एंड दिस इट इज फॉर द पब्लिक प्रोसिक्यूटर टू फाइंड व्हाट आर द स्कीम्स अवेलेबल फॉर द बेनिफिट ऑफ द विक्टिम्स ऑफ द ट्रैफिकिंग, ITPA और 370 व्हाटएवर इट मे बी. सो ये दो भी मिलके काम करने से तो खूब जल्दी से जल्दी कॉम्पनसेशन, रीजनेबल कॉम्पनसेशन मिल सकता है, अदर फैसिलिटीज मिल सकते हैं. अनलेस जुडिशियल ऑफिसर का ऑर्डर नहीं होगा तो रिलीज नहीं होगा, कुछ भी रिलीज नहीं होगा. दिस इज द डिफिकल्टी.
शुक्रिया रोजदार साहब. जो सवाल पूछा गया था और रोजदार साहब ने मेरा काम थोड़ा आसान कर दिया, क्योंकि काफी कुछ उन्होंने हिंदी में ही जो है अपना जवाब दे दिया है. कॉम्पेंसेशन के ऊपर था कि जो रेस्क्यू की जाती है विक्टिम्स, उनको कॉम्पेंसेशन क्यों नहीं मिलता. फिर से कुछ मुख्तसर से मैं बता देता हूँ कि उनका ये मानना है कि भाई अगर पब्लिक प्रोसिक्यूटर स्कीम्स सारी हैं, स्कीम्स अवेलेबल हैं, उसको पब्लिक प्रोसिक्यूटर्स को परस्यू करना चाहिए और जुडिशियल ऑफिसर्स को ऑर्डर देना चाहिए, और उसको फॉलो अप करने से जो है विक्टिम्स को कॉम्पेंसेशन वक्त से मिल सकता है. हाँ, वो मानते हैं कि पॉक्सो के मुकाबले ट्रैफिकिंग जब केसेस बुक किए जाते हैं तो पॉक्सो में जल्दी और ज्यादा कॉम्पेंसेशन मिलता है, ट्रैफिकिंग में डिले हो जाता है, और कई दफा जो है उसको अगर सही से ऑर्डर नहीं अप्लाई किया जाए तो वो कॉम्पेंसेशन नहीं मिल पाता है.
One more point I want to add.
जी रोजदार साहब प्लीज.
अभी पॉक्सो में रूल 7 है, तो रूल 7 में ऐसा है कॉम्पनसेशन कब से दे सकते हैं, FIR के टाइम पर से दे सकते हैं. अगर accused मिल गया, identified or unidentified, accused discharge, whether case is acquitted or convicted, whatever it may be, the victim of POCSO is entitled for compensation, whereas similar provision is not there in ITPA or under CRPC to make apply to the cases of 370. So this is one means intended means provision has to be incorporated in CRPC as well as in ITPA under rules.
Thank you. शुक्रिया रोजदार साहब. देखते देखते 6 बजने वाले हैं, and I think we are coming to the end of our questions from our survivor advocates. And one of the comments that I picked up from the Facebook Live is that I love the straightforwardness of the questions. About time, dialogue wasn't so diplomatic. We have still kept it diplomatic. We have kept it civil, but the questions are hard and very straightforward. I'm sure our panelists would agree. So to the last question from our survivor advocates, I will invite again Reshma. Reshma, आप अपना सवाल रविकांत जी से कीजिए. आखिरी सवाल हमारे सर्वाइवर एडवोकेट का रवि जी के लिए सवाल. रेशमा.
नमस्ते सर, मैं आपसे ये पूछना चाहती हूँ कि सर मेरा मानना है कि मैं बहुत किस्मत वाली हूँ, क्योंकि मेरे को पूरे तरीका रिहैबिलिट होने का मौका मिला, इसलिए मैं आज आपके सामने हूँ. तो मैं ये भी जानती हूँ सर, बहुत सारे लड़कियों को ऐसा मौका नहीं मिलता है. तो मेरा सवाल ये है कि सर क्यों ना पूरे NGO वाले मिलके गवर्नमेंट के साथ मिलके बात कर ले, गवर्नमेंट के साथ मिलके सब जगह एक व्यवस्था होते सो होम्स क्यों नहीं चला सकते हो?
Okay, a very good question, Reshma. I think this is, as I have been always saying, and when this new law is being passed and a lot of things are being happening, I have always advocated that we should have good shelter homes. Now, what we are seeing is that government has abdicated its duty to NGOs to do it. And as you all know, that NGO sector now is under stress, and government funding comes very late sometimes. There is a lot of mismanagement we have been seeing in several places. Of course, there are very good shelter homes being run, but that has to be replicated across the country. And therefore, I think that, and in my own experience, I have seen that anything which is given under the charge of the district magistrate in a district, if proper protocols and things are given, it happens perfectly. So I think that a lot of this work which has been abdicated to NGOs should be under the government. Government should take care of its budgeting. Government should take care of its financing and administration. Yes, in the shelter home being run by the government, the NGOs should play a big role in doing counseling, supporting, and also some little bit in administration. So it should be a joint initiative rather than a single initiative by an NGO. And that is the reason why everywhere we see that a lot of these shelter homes are mismanaged. So, and good shelter homes, best practices, protocols which have been well established by activists who have done great amount of work. I think Prajwala has come out with a manual on standard operating protocols to run. They have a huge experience, Rescue Foundation and Sunlab, but I can just count 10 or 12 of them. So learnings from these organizations need to be taken into it and come out as a standard operating protocol to be implemented in each district. I'll give you an example. And there are a lot of public prosecutors, government officers, judicial officers, police officers here. The judicial academies are all completely air conditioned. If you go to a police academy and you see the campuses, why not? Why not the shelter homes can be good, proper, facilities in a district? They have a lot of land. That the infrastructure has to be provided. We have to take these things very seriously. In our country, issues of rehabilitation is not taken. Victims are not beggars. Their fundamental rights have been violated and they deserve every bit of that. Just see the amount of finances which are being provided to shelter homes. It's nothing. It's just about 2 flyovers in a country. That's the amount of total budget they are providing. And good amount of financing, good amount of budgets for shelter home. They should be well maintained. Why should they not be air conditioned? So when we want, जब हक मांगेंगे तो अपना पूरा हक चाहिए. और हम लोग NGO सेक्टर में यही लड़ाई लड़ना है. हम लोग बहुत दिन तक प्रोजेक्ट्स चला लिए, अब लड़ाई ये लड़ना है. और मैं बहुत हताश हूँ, 20 साल से काम करते हुए भी we are not able to provide all this. So thank you, Reshma, for putting up this question.
Thank you, Ravi ji. Thank you so much. रेशमा, आपका जवाब रवि भाई ने बहुत लंबे तौर से दिया, लेकिन मैं उसको संक्षिप्त में एक ही लाइन में बोलूंगी कि हाँ, गवर्नमेंट को, सरकार को ये करना चाहिए और NGO उसमें सब तरह से सपोर्ट करना चाहिए. ये जरूरी है. और रवि भाई बहुत दुखी भी हैं कि सरकार उतना पैसा नहीं लगा रही है होम्स चलाने के लिए. होम्स बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है रिहैबिलिटेशन के लिए. Wow, this is more than 1.5 hours of conversation. We have come to the end of it. Just what Rozidar said, Rozidar Saab said, I want to just repeat, just say that for our officers, because our officers, public prosecutors and judicial officers from Andhra Pradesh and Telangana are there today on the Zoom, and just wanted to tell them that Andhra Pradesh and Telangana government have a policy, a special policy called as GOMS number 28, where any girl who's rescued from prostitution could be given 20,000 rupees immediate relief as soon as she's really, rescued. So if your judicial orders have one line to the government saying that ensure that you know, as per GOMS number 28, you have to give it. We actually ask for it. It takes us 8 or 9 months, sometimes even 1 or 2 years to get that 20,000 rupees. But if you write that in your order, one line, that as per GOMS number 28, please give the immediate relief immediately, I can tell you 100% that it will happen in 8 days. No, you know, even less than 8 days, the government will come running to give it. So all of us have to play a very proactive role. I don't know how many questions we are going to ask, but let's take at least 2 questions from the survivors who are on the Zoom panel. May I request survivor Meghla from Maharashtra? Meghla is a survivor. I know her well. She has overcome so much in her life and done her master's in social work. Today, she's a social worker working in an organization. May I request Meghla to please ask your question to Shri Ravikant.
थैंक यू मैम. गुड इवनिंग सर. और मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि जब हमें रेस्क्यू किया जाता है और हमें शेल्टर होम में लाया जाता है, तो बहुत से बार हमें स्टेटमेंट के लिए बोला जाता है और अलग अलग स्टेक होल्डर से हमें स्टेटमेंट देना होता है. जैसे कि शेल्टर होम के जो स्टाफ होते हैं, CWCs, देन अलग अलग जो NGOs होते हैं, हमें उनको स्टेटमेंट देना होता है. तो ये सारी चीजें जो है हमें ट्रॉमेटाइज कर देते बहुत से बार, और हमें हमारे उस पास्ट लाइफ में फिर से हमें लेके जाते हैं जो हमने जिया है. तो हम ऐसा क्या कर सकते हैं कि ये जो स्टेटमेंट का जो प्रोसेस है हम थोड़ा कम कर सके.
सॉरी, ये क्वेश्चन रवि जी के लिए नहीं है. सॉरी, आई एम सो सॉरी. इट इज फॉर महेश जी. Mahesh ji, the question is for you. The repeated statements being taken, what can be done about it? Sorry, Ravi ji.
Okay.
Mahesh sir, आप हैं?
मेघला, बहुत ही अच्छा सवाल है आपका. मेरे साथ मेरे प्रोसिक्यूटर रोजेदार साहब भी, वो भी इसमें पार्टिसिपेट होंगे. प्रेमनाथ साहब भी है. यहाँ पे जो रिपीटेड स्टेटमेंट रिकॉर्ड किया जाता है, उसका एक ही कारण है कि जो एक्सपेक्टेशन है पुलिस के कि स्टेटमेंट में क्या क्या चाहिए, वो इंफॉर्मेशन सर्वाइवर से इमीडिएटली नहीं आ रही है. सर्वाइवर जो ट्रॉमा में रहते हैं, अंडर ट्रिमेंडस प्रेशर, सर्वाइवर्स पूरा ट्रॉमेटाइज रहती है. एंड व्हेन इन द बिगिनिंग, इमीडिएटली आफ्टर द रेस्क्यू, द स्टेटमेंट वी रिकॉर्ड, वो स्टेटमेंट, इट मे नॉट रिवील द नेम ऑफ द ट्रैफिकर, द सोर्स फ्रॉम व्हिच वेयर शी गॉट ट्रैफिक, who are there in the chain of trafficker from the source to destination, who are other people, who are the customers frequently coming there, who are financer. All these things will not come immediately after the rescue when the statement is recorded. What our experience says that after enough time in the rescue home, if there is a trauma counseling to the victims by the socio-psycho counselor, they are coming out, and their statement is a true statement, complete statement, where we get all the evidentiary value on which we can work. We can arrest all those people in that chain of trafficker. We can get even the customers also. We can go get those perpetrators of the crime in that statement. So my request here again, that the caregivers in the home, they have to mentally prepare the victim as early as possible to give the true statement, the best statement, what happened to her, who has exploited her, what wrong went with her, on which the police can act further, and that after that police can take her to the judicial magistrate and record her statement under 164 CRPC, which can be used again at the time of trial, because we are not sure whether the victim will be available or not when the trial is there. And it takes a lot of time to conduct trial. In the you see the kind of pendency in the courts now. In my commissariat, I have seen it is taking almost 4 to 5 years for the ITPA and human trafficking cases to come for the trial. And in these 4 to 5 years, I don't think any survivor will be in the home for 4 to 5 years. It's possible. So that 164 statement, yes, definitely that 164 statement is helping us, and there are a couple of case laws which we are citing that in the absence of the prosecutor, also the conviction can be given to the accused, and we got some convictions recently in some good cases. So that's the reason the 164 statement, if it is a full-proof statement, that will be the final statement. I don't think after 164 statement before judicial magistrate, any other statement again will be recorded by any police officer.
Sir,
Thank you, Mahesh sir. Thank you so much. Meghla, no, we will not have any cross examinations or cross questions. हम लोग जो मेघला का क्वेश्चन था, सर ने जो बहुत अच्छे से जवाब दिया, मैं बस बहुत क्विकली उसको हिंदी में अनुवाद करना चाह रही हूँ कि कभी-कभी बार-बार सवाल पूछना और कहानी पूछना एक जरूरत बन जाता है, क्योंकि अपराध के जो पूरे मायने हैं कि कहाँ से कहाँ तक हुआ है, ये पूरी बात पुलिस को समझ आने के लिए थोड़ा टाइम लगता है, क्योंकि विक्टिम भी डरी हुई है, सहमी हुई है, वो पूरी बात एक बार बताती नहीं है। जैसे जैसे उसका विश्वास व्यवस्था के ऊपर यानी सिस्टम के ऊपर बनता है, तब वो बताना शुरू करती है। तो कभी-कभी एक जरूरत बन जाती है कि बार-बार स्टेटमेंट पूछना। पर मेघला, आपने जो बात कही, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट बात कही कि स्टेटमेंट इसलिए ना पूछा जाए कि लड़की को बार-बार री-ट्रॉमेटाइज किया जाए। ऑडियंस में एक और सर्वाइवर लीडर हैं जो कोलकाता से हैं, सौम्या। सौम्या एक पेंटर हैं, एक डांसर हैं, अभी 12th स्टैंडर्ड के एग्जाम कंप्लीट कर रहे हैं, और इनका सवाल रविकांत जी से है। ये मेरे को जैसे शुरू होने से पहले ही मेरे को बोल दिया था, इसीलिए मैं इन दोनों का नाम पहले से ही जानती हूँ। सौम्या, आप पूछ सकते हो रविकांत जी से।
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening.
Sir, my question to you is, sir, when we are placed in the shelter home after we are rescued, there, sir, we get a proper counseling, proper support. But, sir, after 2 to 3 years, when we are getting back to our community, our society, we face a lot of difficulties as we don't get any proper rehabilitation service from the community. So my point is that what will happen to us then when we get back to the society without any proper rehabilitation support?
See, great question, Soumya. I have been discussing this even in the earlier questions. I have talked about it, about the rehabilitation issue. Yes, certainly, as we practitioners who work on this issue of sex trafficking and police officers who have worked on this issue of sex trafficking, they know that the hand holding is required for a very, very long period of time. And also, I think that sometimes judges and prosecutors and government officers don't realize when we talk about that a long period of hand holding. You have to be there for the survivor at every stage of our reintegration. We have got calls from survivors after 3 years that she have been stigmatized and her story has been published, or sometimes she's getting a lot of threats. A lot of these things, survivors call us. I have had experience of survivors being in touch for a long period of time, and that support is required. And therefore, whenever we do repatriation, or even judicial officers, when you are repatriating a minor victim or a victim, please ensure, the child welfare committees also, please ensure that you connect them with a mentor organization there when the survivor is back in their community. These mentor organizations can really provide support. But in terms of the organizations who have handled a rescue and has been following the court case, that requires a long period of support. You are very right that hand-holding has to a long period of time. And appeal to all the judicial officers and prosecutors present, please understand that survivors are very vulnerable when they are back in their communities, and therefore sometimes when we come back running to you that sir threat mila hai victim ko, so please take necessary action. Please update the judge. Of course, at our organization we register cases then and there at the district level, but we have to be very sensitive to any input which the survivor is giving, because she's under threat, she's alone, and she's in a society which has no support for survivors.
Thank you, Raviji. I think We have received a lot of questions. I'm just trying to pick up questions from everywhere, and thanks to our colleagues Swasti and Nitin for putting them together. I am going to ask two final questions, and this question is to you, Swatiji. This has come from an additional sessions judge from Odisha, and the question that is being asked by Mr. Dilip Satpathy is: suppose A gives 50,000 to B to obtain her consent for sexual exploitation. B consented to this and accepted the money. In such circumstances, how is the prosecuting agency, the IO, the court, going to prove that A exploited B and the consent of B was immaterial?
Yeah, see, the first thing is, in India, prostitution per se is not illegal. What is illegal, what is punishable, or what is being criminalized is commercialization of prostitution. So if the transaction is between only A and B, then it may not amount to commercialization of prostitution. Now, to give answer to this question, I'll have to again give an illustration. So there is A, B, and C. A decides to have sexual services from B, but the payment is made to C, and the C gives, suppose 50,000. Out of 50,000, 40,000 is kept by C, and 10,000 is given to B. Now this whole transaction is commercialization of sexual services, and it comes under the purview of ITPA. But if the transaction is between two people, one is purchaser of sex and the other is provider, and the money which is negotiated between A and B, and the full money is taken by the provider, then that does not come under ITPA, because it is not commercialization. There's no stake of anyone else in that amount which the lady is getting. But this transaction cannot happen unless these people go to a certain place. So again, if that place is a public place, again ITPA will come into play. ITPA will be attracted. If it is a place where such type of services are given and taken, that will become a brothel. So again, this transaction will become punishable. So the law is little. You have to understand it, that prostitution per se is not an offense, but prostitution is not allowed at public places, at brothels, and any place where such commercialization of sex services is done. That place is called a brothel. So if brothel is there, ITPA will be attracted. So even if the law is very clear that prostitution per se is not punishable, but the law does not allow prostitution. So it's like that. I hope I have answered the question.
Yes, thank you. That was very lucid, Swatiji, as always. Thank you so much. We'll come to the last question, and I'm just scanning. Trimnaji, this question is addressed to you. The question that is being asked is, this has come from our Zoom audience. In my experience, survivors who have NGO assigned caseworkers and minors who have support persons assigned to them still receive assistance and updates on their casework. What measures are provided to those major victims who are rescued by the police but have no NGO support?
Yeah, it's very, because as far as India is concerned, there are only very few NGOs who are supporting the victims. But as far as the victims of crime itself, there are only very few NGOs. Because except some organizations like Prajala or these organizations are not that much interested in this issue. So first of all, it is our duty to develop such organization, at least in each and every district first. Luckily, Palghar had such an organization, but many of the districts in Kerala state don't have such an organization. So it is our duty, it is the duty of the civil society, duty of the police officers, and duty of the prosecutors see that such an organization is being developed in the every nook of the society, and then only they will be in a position to help the victims. And that particular person, the NGO personality, should be persons with a clear, they should go to the clear hands. And because if they belong to some other people who are doing crime or political affiliations, again it will spoil the name of the society also. So such an organization should come up, and we should try for it.
Thank you so much, Premnath ji. Thank you so much. I think and that there are lots of questions that we have remaining, but unfortunately we will not be able to take all of those at this point of time. We have gone over a stipulated time, but I'm really grateful that we could include all these. But most importantly, I think this is a time when we are ending our reality check series, which we had given it the title of End Human Trafficking series. The end is some ways off. It is still some ways off, but the conversations that we've had in the past 6 weeks have been extremely enlightening. The participation that we've had has been very encouraging. And it is my hope that in every session, people who joined us, people who listened to our distinguished panelists, would have something to take away. There is something that you would have decided in your heart that this is something I'm going to do. This is something new that I've heard. This is something I can do, and this is something I can make a change of. So, I have to thank each one of our panelists, starting from retired Justice Madan Lokur, Hasina Kharbi, Captain Vineet Kumar, Mr. Srijit, Mr. Krishna Prakash, IPS officers both, Ms. Aparna Bhatt, Ms. Cassandra Fernandez, Mr. Ravi Kumar, Member of Parliament, Mr. Sujit Kumar, Member of Parliament, Mr. Jatashankar Tripathi, a Member of Legislative Assembly from Uttar Pradesh, and Mr. N.K. Munir, a Member of Legislative Assembly and a former Minister from Kerala, but also our own Renuka Chaudhary ji from our state. Without these panelists, without their support, without the views that they very forthrightly gave on all the reality check series, I don't think we would have been where we are at the end of this journey. This is just the beginning, I would say, from a spark that was ignited on the International Day Against Trafficking till today, the 9th of October. We've continued with this series. So I want to personally thank each one of our panelists on behalf of my co-moderator and host, Dr. Sunita Krishnan. And I will turn this over, Sunita, for your last words and thanking our survivor advocates and our guests.
Thank you, Salil. Before I continue with the round of thank yous that I have to say, somebody in the chat box, survivors from the chat box have asked, suppose a victim is being abducted, kidnapped and taken where? How do you reach the police? There is 100 to reach the police. There's 181 to reach the police. There's 1098 to reach the police. The entire country is connected through with these three numbers. ये टोल फ्री नंबर्स हैं, एक 100, 181 और 1098. आप कहीं से भी इसे कॉल कर सकते हैं और पुलिस को कांटेक्ट कर सकते हैं. I want to thank first of all, मैं बहुत तहे दिल से सबसे पहले तो हर विक्टिम और सर्वाइवर्स को मेरे हाथ जोड़कर मैं थैंक यू कहना चाहती हूँ. आप नहीं होते तो शायद ये रियलिटी चेक नहीं होता था. आपके इंस्पिरेशन से हम लोगों ने ये रियलिटी चेक शुरू किया. टू ऑल द सर्वाइवर्स, जहाँ जहाँ बैठे हैं, आप FB में वॉच कर रहे हैं, जूम में बैठे हैं, मैं आपको सलाम करती हूँ, क्योंकि आपने जो अनुभव किया, आपने जो देखा और जो घिनौना सत्य देखा है दुनिया का, उसके बावजूद आपने हम सबको माफ किया और अपने अंदर आशा की एक झलक जगाई और आप जीने को और जीने के लिए तैयार हुए. ये मैं मानती हूँ आप मेरे ट्रू हीरोज हो. आप मेरे लिए सबसे बड़े इंस्पायरिंग ग्रुप ऑफ पीपल हो. मैं नहीं मानती हूँ कि कोई दूसरा इंसान ने मेरे को इतना इंस्पायर किया है जितना आपने मुझे इंस्पायर किया है. So thank you so much. I thank Reshma, I thank Ella Sangma, I thank Namrata, who are our guest panelists today. आज आप लोगों की वजह से हम लोगों ने ये लास्ट कॉन्वर्सेशन कंप्लीट किया. पर ये लास्ट कॉन्वर्सेशन और all these 6 weeks of conversations we have had is also because several other people who believed in this cause. ये प्रज्वला अकेला नहीं कर रहे हैं, ये सुनीता कृष्ण और सलिल कादिर का बस आइडिया नहीं है. बहुत सारे लोग, there are a lot of people behind this who have supported this. I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to all the people who have made this reality check possible. And I want to thank very particularly Chief Justice of Telangana, Shri Raghavendra Chauhan ji, Chief Justice of Andhra Pradesh, Justice Maheshwari ji, Chief Justice of Odisha High Court, Justice Mohammad Rafiq ji. If not for you all the judicial officers from these 3 states wouldn't have attended all these reality checks for the last six weeks. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your cooperation. I also like to thank all our Registrar Generals from Telangana, Sri Venkateshwar Reddy, Bhanumati ma'am from Andhra Pradesh, and Sri Malay Das from Odisha for your intervention and facilitation that every judicial officer was sent the information to join this, and they have joined us diligently. I also take it as a great privilege and pleasure to thank the Director of Prosecution, Vaijanti ji from Telangana, Mamta Sundari ji from Andhra Pradesh, and Sri Rath from Odisha, who made it possible for prosecutors from all the 3 states to join us for all the episodes. Thank you so much. I couldn't have done anything without my civil society partners, my co-crusaders who have been fighting this battle for so many years and yet not losing hope in doing this every day, day in and out. Thank you so much for being there, for being my strength, being the strength for all the victims and survivors in the country. I thank each one of you all for your support. It's a time to wrap up, and I feel we have not been able to end anything. This conversation will go on, but this conversation has been uncomfortable. This conversation has churned a lot of insight in us. But I'm hoping that this has been like a Samudra Manthan, where a lot of valuables come out. Parijat comes out, Airavat comes out, so many nectar comes out, new valuable things come out. I think this conversation has been a Samudra Manthan for all of us. I see the change. I see the change in all our officers in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh who believe now, and who have always believed, but now more, we see it more tangibly, to engage with the victim, to interact with the victim, and ensure that they're creating a friendly environment for that. I'm sure all the judicial officers, prosecutors, civil society organizations have something that they have taken back from the series. We will keep the conversations on, but for now, this is the end of the End Human Trafficking series reality check from Prajwala. Signing off, Sunita Krishnan and my co-moderator, Salil Kadir. Thank you so much to everybody. Shubh Ratri. Thank you so much.